Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Lauren. Thank you so much for watching. We are on to day 2 of singles week, and today is going to be a specific look at my collection of singles, and we're going to be going through all my Sydney Grace shadows. This has been a pretty requested video ever since I bought Sydney Grace shadows earlier this year. I do have a sizable collection, I would say. I had heard a lot about Sydney Grace shadows from different people here on YouTube, and as I was getting more and more into singles this year, I knew they were on my list. So I did place quite a few orders during their annual Christmas in July sale, so I got a lot of these on really great deals, which was awesome. I'm gonna go into depth about these shadows. I'm gonna swatch them, I'm gonna compare them. I have thoughts as I go through them, so definitely check for timestamps if that's what you're mostly here for, are those swatches. I do want to give a few thoughts really fast. I'm extremely happy with my purchases. I've also bought the Sydney Grace and Mel Thompson palette. I'll put a picture of it up here. I didn't bring it for my intro, but I do give you some comparison swatches of that palette as well. And I find between the singles and that palette, the quality is the exact same. Sydney Grace is just a really solid indie single shadow brand. So I highly suggest if you're someone who is getting into single shadows, I think Sydney Grace is a great place to start. I think that their quality as well as their customer service and just everything about the brand is quite similar in a lot of ways to higher end brands or like things you could buy at Sephora or Ulta or anywhere you shop for your beauty products. And so I think it'll be a really great first experience for you to dip your toe into indie single shadows. The prices on the individual eyeshadows ranges for like mattes and metallics and whatnot. It's usually between like $5 and $6. There are some like multi-chromes which retail for a little bit more. I think those are at the $15 price point. Sydney Grace also sells like face products, loose highlighters, cream shadows. Like there's a lot more on the site than just single shadows, but so far that's mostly what I've tried. I will say, you'll see as I go into swatches that my collection leans very cool toned. I was looking into the brand around March, and at that time there really weren't a ton of cool toned palettes out. Now we have the Natasha Denona Glam palette and a few others have come out since then, but I felt like Sydney Grace was one of the brands that had just really great cool tone single options, and I was very interested and intrigued, so that's really what I focused on when I bought from the brand. And since going full in, buying tons and tons of shadows, I definitely want to continue to expand my collection with them. I've just had such a great experience that I'm definitely looking out for deals. I love a sale, you guys know that. So yeah, that's kind of just overall my thoughts. I will leave asterisks next to the shadows that I think are just particularly amazing in case you guys want specific recommendations from me, like my personal recommendations. But honestly, so far, I really haven't had any issues, and I honestly think whatever you pick up will be of good quality. Last, before we get into single shadows, I did want to note that I picked up some of the magnetic palettes. Again, these were on a really great sale during the Christmas in July sale. I'm telling you, I stocked up during that sale. And I do really like them. I just wanted to shout them out a little bit. So this is the 12 pan, so it fits 12 of the eyeshadows in here. I really enjoy that these have a mirror because I find for me, these are great when I create custom eyeshadow palettes, and usually those are based off of existing or coming out eyeshadow palettes. This actually functions as something I can use because of that mirror. So I really like that. It's not just a holder, it also becomes like a real life palette, if that makes sense. Whereas I have other things like these Z palettes that just kind of more than anything act as holders of my shadows and not necessarily the same functionality as like a pre-made palette. I also picked up the 9 pan, and again, it has the mirror in there. And then there is a slightly larger one. I think it's 24 shadows maybe, but at the time it was sold out. So I feel like they're really good quality. They're sturdy. I love, again, that they have the mirror in them. And I felt like for the price, they were a good buy. In case you are looking for smaller palettes for holding your single shadows, I think these ones are nice. And I think that's everything. I really hope this video helps you guys if you were looking into Sydney Grace. Maybe it can help you refine your list, find the shadows that are going to work the best for you, maybe see some differences between shadows that might look more similar than they actually are or whatnot, especially with those cool tone shades, because again, that's like the majority of my collection. All right, I think that's it. Let's get into the swatches. All right, guys, so here are all of my Sydney Grace eyeshadows. I have quite a few here, obviously. This is the palette from Mel Thompson, her collaboration with Sydney Grace, and then obviously all the other ones are single shadows. So I'm gonna do my best to give you guys some comparisons. I'll try to let you know what's available and what's not, what I spent, all that good information as we go. So in total here, And also I do have some of their magnetic palettes. In total though, from everything I've ever spent money on at Sydney Grace, I've spent approximately $240, I would say. I took advantage of some of the sales going on. They do a Christmas and July sale, and that's where I got basically all of these shadows, as well as those magnetic palettes I told you about. And then this was just its own purchase once this palette came out. I know it's Single Shadows week, and that's when I'm uploading this, but I do want to give you guys some comparisons with the Tiny Marvels palette, so I'll do that at the end, and timestamps will be down below. I had been wanting to try Sydney Grace shadows for a very long time. I just hadn't yet. I don't know what it was. I don't know why I waited so long, because honestly, I find that the Sydney Grace formula is one of the most solid that I've tried basically from any brand, but specifically Single Shadows. I think their mattes are super creamy and blendable. I think that their metallic shimmers, I mean, they just go on and on. So I feel like quality wise, they're just so solid. I understand why everyone talks about them. I understand why they're so raved about. They're really, really great eyeshadows. What I have separated out into this 9-pan is the Mountain Trail bundle. This retails for $33. I believe it's out of stock as I'm filming this. I'm not sure if it's coming back, but I got this 30% off when I shopped the sale. So I think I spent about $23 for all the shadows in here, which is such a steal. They're about $5 a piece. So to get 9 of them for $20, or about under $25, is a great deal. In this palette, all of the shadows up until this point, like going across the rows up until here, these are all shadows that I purchased just individually. Obviously, they're very cool toned, as you can tell. That was one of my biggest inspirations for purchasing. I knew that Sydney Grace had some really beautiful cool toned single eyeshadows. I'd wanted to try the brand, and so that's really what I went in on for my first purchases. And then if you see these shadows here, these are all from when I shopped the sale. They had different mystery bags. One was a cool tone bag, one was a warm toned bag, and in it you got a ton of different products. And so I think that these are all either limited edition or made specifically for the bags, or they're just not available, I believe, to purchase individually. So I have those kind of parsed out. All right, I think that's enough of like an intro into the shadows. Let's just get into it. I think it will be easier to just talk about the Mountain Trail bundle, so that's what we'll start with. Don't mind my fingers. I mean, look at me trying to do all my single shadows. I've been stained. But this is the Mountain Trail bundle. It is a really beautiful, like olive green toned bundle. And the palette did not come with it. It was just single shadows. The first shadow that I have here is called Dirt Road. It's a nice warm toned light brown. And that's a swatch of it there. Just a really nice one. It has a lot of yellow in it. This next one is called Be the Sunshine. It's a really metallic golden yellow olive. I mean, if you put it next to greens, it's going to look really golden. If you put it next to golds, it's going to look green. And it does have, you can see here, a bit of a darker base to it. And then it really shines that metallic gold. Or olive, that's a really good one, golden olive. And last on this top row, this is the shade Rustic. This one's more of a satin. So it does have like a shimmery sheen to it. And it's not matte, but it's not like as metallic. And so that one there is Rustic. In the second row, the next shade that I have is Wildlife. This is a matte, I would say mid-tone olive. Really, really beautiful there. You can see that it looks green. And there's a swatch of it. Just a beautiful shadow. And I think this is a good representation of how almost all the mattes from Sydney Grace, like, they just swatch really well, and they also perform well on the eye. I don't think a swatch is everything, but I will say specifically Sydney Grace shadows feel nice and swatch so nice and creamy. Next, we have another shimmer. This one's called Escape, and this one's a lot more green than gold. So I would say that this is also a metallic olive, but it definitely is more of that traditional green olive color. And then it has that a little bit of like that golden shift. Again, the base is a little bit darker. And then when you see it shine in the light, you see a little bit more of a golden green. And then last for the second row, this is a shade called Light My World. I think this is my favorite of the shimmers in this bundle. I love this one. I think it's this nice in between of everything. And it's like a golden brown olive. I'll swatch all the golden, like, shimmery shades next to each other, but I really love this. Again, we have a little bit of a darker base and then it shines through. This one has like a little bit more of like speckled individual shimmer in it as well. It's just so, so beautiful. Moving into the last row, this next shade is To Earth. It's a really deep green. This is like a forest green, and it is a metallic. There's more blue in this than some of the other greens we've been seeing. This would make such a beautiful smoky eye. I would just put that straight in the middle. That's not going to work out well, but it's so pretty. There's this darkened, blackened base to it. I don't know if you can see that around the edges, but then it has that like really beautiful green metallic on top. Really, really stunning. Would make a beautiful, like very smoky winter eye. Next to last is a shade called Backwoods. This is very similar to the other like more yellow brown we've seen, Dirt Road. This one's a little bit deeper, a little less yellow, more brown in it. But again, just a really nice example of how creamy these mattes can be. And last is a deep matte green shade. This is called Trailhead. So, so beautiful. I mean, that is just so pigmented, so nice, you guys. I think overall, like this is such a pretty look right here. This is how you get that winter smoky eye I was talking about. It's just an overall really nice bundle. It's very like one-noted in terms of color story, but you kind of know what you're getting when you're ordering this. I don't believe you can order any of these individually, but I do want to show you just some comparison swatches because as I was doing it, I realized that might be nice. I feel like these three greens are all very similar, so I'll swatch them out next to each other. So this one's Be the Sunshine. It has a way more like lighter, brighter, golden green, almost chartreusey metallicness to it. Escape is just your traditional like golden olive, I feel like. And then Light My World is, I think, the most neutral of like a green tone in here. It's definitely golden, but it's like a golden green brown. Definitely Be the Sunshine is brighter in tone, just to show you a closer comparison. I also thought I'd show a comparison. This is Dirt Road and this is Backwoods. So similar, definitely very similar, but they are different. I find Backwoods isn't as creamy as the other mattes in here. And like I've mentioned before, sometimes these yellow browns just get heartpan. I don't know, from every brand ever in my collection. I don't know what is up with that. It's just not quite as creamy. It's still nice. I would say though, there's something about it that's a little bit different than other mattes I've tried from Sydney Grace. So that is Dirt Road and that's Backwoods. You can really see the difference of them in a swatch. All right, so here are the swatches. You can see so many just like beautiful finishes in here. There's mattes, super metallics, more shimmers, like almost a satiny type shimmer. Just lots of great stuff in here. I think you can get a variety of different looks. So this is Dirt Road. This is Be the Sunshine. This is Rustic, Wildlife, Escape, Light My World, Backwoods, To Earth, and Trailhead. All right, so that is the Mountain Trail bundle. Really beautiful. I'm glad I picked this up, and I especially loved getting it on the deal. I think if you're interested in Sydney Grace and you can find a bundle and save some money that way, I think it's a good option for you. They have an even more green one currently on the site. They have a Behind the Beauty bundle. If you guys watch Behind the Beauty, they have a bundle with Sydney Grace right now. That is a really great option if you're just getting started into Sydney Grace, and especially if you like neutrals. And there's also a Raspberry Kiss bundle, which I'm definitely interested in, especially, I mean, if you can get a discount on top of the bundle, that is just such an extreme deal. So anyway, that is Mountain Trail. Now we're going to move into the big palette. Again, I'm going to talk about these. I'm basically going to talk about all the ones, not including these 10 shadows first. I'll go into swatches of these, but I do not believe these are for sale individually. We'll start with the shimmers from basically like lightest to darkest, and I'll zoom in so you can really see what we're talking about here. Again, look at this. Look at how some eyeshadows stain. My goodness. Okay, this is the shade Peace, and it's so beautiful. This is one of those like stunning metallic shades from Sydney Grace. This one has a kind of rosy undertone, like a purple mauve rosy undertone to the iciness that is this color. So if that's the type of cool toned lid shade you're looking for, I think this one would be so beautiful. Again, you can see like when the light's not hitting it, it definitely has some depth, but then the light hits it and you see the shine. I've noticed that a lot with the Sydney Grace shimmers, which makes them so different to me. I just feel like they have a lot of dimension to them, even being a metallic that doesn't have like shimmer per se, you know? Highly suggest that one. I think it's one of their like really classic colors. Next is Tiara, and this, if you're looking for like a cool toned taupey aluminum, this is the shade you want. I mean, it is absolutely stunning and probably the most, like standout shade I have from Sydney Grace. I highly suggest this. Is probably the number one shadow that I do suggest because of how just distinct it is. It's so just beautiful. Again, you can see how it's like a true cool toned there. There's no like pink, there's no purple. It really is a taupe with a silver sheen, metallic, and it's so meaty. I know that's like a weird word, but texturally, this shadow is just substantial and in a good way, you know? It's just, it goes a long way. It's super pigmented. You're not getting any sheerness with these metallics. You're getting full coverage pigment here. Really beautiful. Love, love, love. And honestly, I'm someone who loves like sheer topper shades right now. And so sometimes even working with Tiara, I'm like, oh crap, like that's so pigmented. And I don't take it up as high because I'm like, wow, that's looking a little space age, you know? But yeah, anyway, okay, so pretty. Moving on. This next shade I was really excited about. It's called Winter Garden, and it is really beautiful, but it has this duochrome to it. So it's like a pinky mauve purple with a light blue shift, and light as in not super strong. I don't regret picking this shadow up. I'm glad I have it. So you can see the shift there. It's beautiful. I think if you're someone who wants something subtle but duochrome, this might be a perfect shadow for you. It's great for every day. You could wear this to the office while still having some fun. It's in a great like Sydney Grace formula. I think for me, when I go duochrome, I'm gonna also go really sparkly and more textured than this. So for me, it's slightly disappointing, but overall, it's not a disappointing shadow, if that makes sense. So that is Winter Garden. I think a lot of people really like it. And last, for being on this hand, let's do Troops. This is so beautiful. It's a purple with this, it's not gold, but it's not silver. It's so interesting, but it is more of like a purple base. So stunning. Yeah, it is more golden. It's like a purple mauve with a slightly like not too warm golden sheen to it. I mean, Sydney Grace quality, super substantial feeling, smooth, super pigmented. If this is your type of color, you would love this. But it's definitely different than Peace. So this is Peace, that's Troops. Way different. And I think you can really see the difference in swatches with these colors, whereas when you put them next to each other, I don't feel like they show the difference nearly as much. You're just seeing the reflection of those shades, and in the depth of when the light's not hitting them is where you really see the difference. I'm going to try to fit the last 5 shimmers here, so the 3 on top and these 2 together so you can see them all. This next one is called Somber. This is a really beautiful taupey gray. I would say this isn't quite as metallic as the like Tiara or some of the other shades I've shown you. It's still really shiny. There's just something about like the texture isn't as thick, I guess. Super beautiful though. It's almost like this in between of satin and metallic, I would call it. And I think this one would be so pretty as like a one shadow look because the sheen isn't nearly as strong as some of those hyper metallic colors. In formula, it's kind of similar to Winter's Garden. Next is the shade Frosted Morning. It's very similar to Somber, but it has more of like a green base to it. You can see on the fingers, this is Frosted Morning and this is Somber. So it is more of like a green brown, and there are the 2 swatches. So it's like, yeah, kind of bronzy and brown. Similar formula though. where it's metallic, but not like so shiny. We are moving through them. Oh my gosh. Okay, next is Rover. Again, we're still in that same kind of in between where it's shimmery, but not, you know, foiled, I guess. Rover has a nice like red purple base to it, a little bit different than the others. I hope you can see these very slight differences because maybe you don't want all of these and you could pick the one you think will work best for you. This, again, like all three of these would be just such stunning smoky eyes, one shadow looks, super easy. Blend out some bronzer in your crease and then put this in, boom, like easy looks, you know? Next is a duochrome shade. This is Red Chameleon, and unlike the other duochrome shade, Winter Garden, which has that, this is way more metallic. It is just so pigmented. It has that red base with that green blue shift here. It's like a teal shift. It's truly a little bit green, a little bit blue. So beautiful, but this I would call more of that true metallic. I don't know if you can see the difference in shine, but this one is one of those actual like more foiled, I guess I'm calling it. I don't know why I'm not reading it off the website, but more my opinion on this one. And last, for shimmers to show you that I believe you can buy all individually, this is Purple Sky, and I believe on the website it does look a bit more purple than it is. This is like a charcoal gray with lots of beautiful sparkle to it. It has this like blue note to it and also purple when it picks up in the reflect, but it's not super purple though. I don't know. I mean, you see it in the light, but you also see this really beautiful blue shift in the light as well. Really beautiful, like smoky, like really dark color. And for someone like me, I love shimmers. And so sometimes this is a really nice one to add depth while still like keeping a very, very shimmery look. So I really liked that one. It's definitely a unique color to my collection. And if you're someone looking for like a starry charcoal gray or charcoal black, this would be a really good option, I think, for you. And I would say finish-wise, this one's a bit different than the others. This has that sparkle finish, so it's more textured looking than these metallics, but not quite as like foiled metallic as this one. It's a little more broken up with those individual shimmers. All right, we're now moving into the mattes, and I think that the mattes from Sydney Grace are some of the most impressive. I mean, I love the metallics, don't get me wrong, but I just think the mattes are so impressive and so creamy, and I highly suggest if you like mattes or want to add some really quality mattes to your collection, Sydney Grace is a great place to start. They're going to be pigmented, they're going to be creamy. You're going to love them. We have a lot of similar shades here, like there are slight differences. So let's get into it. This first one here is Speedway. This is just so creamy. So you can see the amount of coverage here. It just blended so beautiful. My hand's a little bit wet, not too much, but I think that's why it's performing a little different on the outside edges, but just stunning. Really great for my skin tone, like a transition shade to help you blend out any looks. And that was something I really wanted. I didn't feel like I had a lot of those light, cool toned or even neutral toned colors. I feel like they always leaned warm if they were light and like truly transitions for me. So I really love Speedway as an addition to my collection. Next is the color San Jose, and this one is a lot more like neutral or even more warm leaning than Speedway. It's another one I really like having in my collection because I feel like it's super light. Like I can't do any wrong with this on my skin tone. I can blend this out. I can be pretty careless and it's gonna just help make everything transition really well. It's a great starting point for me, or even a really nice like neutral lay down and then do an all over shimmer. Like it's just so nice. It's similar in some ways to putting like a bronzer in my crease. I really like having that. It's kind of one of those boring shades, but it's a very useful color for me. Next, we have Iced Mocha, and this is similar to San Jose, like in a lot of ways. It's more pigmented, and this is an example of how when they swatch different than they look. So let's see, here we go. So this is San Jose, and that's Iced Mocha. And although in the pan they look very similar, like, wow, do you even need those two colors? Next to each other, you see the true difference. This is kind of like Natasha Denona shadows. I find like in the pan, they look lighter, but when you swatch them out, they look a little bit deeper. They just have more saturation to them than maybe you'd expect. I feel like that's kind of similar here. So Iced Mocha is that one. Another really nice transition. It kind of reminds me of like Creme Brulee maybe from Makeup Geek. like long time ago. Y'all remember that? The last color I'm going to swatch in this set is Pismo. And this is another really nice neutral, like a very neutral transition for me. I got a lot on there, but you can see that creamy, creamy swatch. Really, really great if you're looking for something more cool toned. And I don't feel like it leans too purple either, which is nice. It's definitely still a brown. So this is Speedway, this is San Jose, this is Iced Mocha, and this is Pismo. All right, moving on to the last shadow in the second row. This is a color called Moon Landing, and it's pretty, I think, unique. So it's a gray, but it's more of a warm-toned gray. So it's not as cool as you could, I guess, go. And so there's something about that I think actually makes this a lot more wearable and blendable. Sometimes grays can get hard. They're hard to use on different skin tones and also depending on what your undertone is. But because this has like a warmth to it, I find it's like an easier gray to work with. Next is a color called Concrete Road. If you're looking for the cool tones, like this is where it's at, right? You can see over here, the top one's Moon Landing, the bottom one is Concrete Road. We'll see them swatched next to each other. Although Concrete Road is a gray, I find it has a lot of purple to it. So once again, still like easy to use. I mean, you can make grays work. I'm not trying to make them seem impossible. I'm just trying to show the differences here. Concrete Road's a really, really great one if you're like a true cool tone lover. Oh my gosh, I cannot stand this. I know. I keep bringing it up, which is like stupid, but next is the shade called Cool Brown. It's just a pretty aptly fitting name for it. This one has a little bit more hard pan than some of the other shades I've had from Sydney Grace. I don't know what that's about. Still super creamy, super pigmented though. So it's definitely not an issue. I just thought I would note it. This is so, so beautiful. And I think it's an example once again of like Cool Brown and Concrete Road seem, Cool Brown and Concrete Road seem like they'd be kind of similar. But when you swatch them out, you really see the differences there. The last shade that I have to swatch in this comparison section, this is called Puppy. And it's so funny because I know Stila had a shade called Puppy for a long time, kind of similar. Like this really beautiful brown that's kind of, there's something kind of soft about it. And I think that is just so nice. What a great neutral brown. It pulls warm when it's next to cool tones. If you put it next to warm tones though, it's gonna pull more cool. Pull cool. That's so hard to say. Really beautiful though. I think that one's great if you're looking for something more neutral as like a neutral in tone, neutral color. Puppy's really beautiful. So this is Moon Landing, Concrete Road, Can I Remember, Cool Brown, and Puppy. All so different. All very, very different. And I feel like we'll move this over. So here they are swatched and here they are on the ground. And I think you really see the differences in color in the swatch as opposed to the pan. All right, we have 5 more mattes to go, 4 up here, and then this last one. This next one is called Enjoy the Ride. This one feels similar to Concrete Road, maybe not as like creamy, like where I guess it's like looser packed. It's not, it's like harder packed in the pan. Again though, so creamy in the swatch. There's no issues. I'm just trying to note literally like any little thing I can to help you guys out. Beautiful, cool toned color, like so great, so great. I think this one has more of that like green, you know, there's something kind of green to it. This next one is called Grounds and you're gonna see the difference. So this one is a little bit more powdery, like as opposed to Enjoy the Ride. And this color also has a little bit more purple in it. So you can see, I think, the more green coming through in this one when it's swatched next to Grounds. Enjoy the Ride, Grounds. Next is a shade called Thunderbird. This one, I mean, is just a classic gray color. Nice and creamy. And it's like a cool toned blue gray. You can see it. Green, a little bit more purple, blue, as like those undertones of the colors. The next shade I have is called Officer, and this is like a gray. It has more of like a charcoaly purple to it. This one's a definite harder one. It's almost like it has hard pan, and this one doesn't perform as well either. You can see that's the swatch. All the other ones have swatched way better than this. Again, a swatch isn't everything. It's not like it performs badly, but I do find that the hard pan on this is harder to get the shadow up. But that one's quite a bit darker, and again, it has more of a purple undertone, which is Officer than Thunderbird. And last, this is called Admiral, and you can see here that it is more of an olive. Really, really pretty. It swatches more similar, I think, to Officer, but this one feels smoother to the touch. There's just something about it, I guess, that's a little bit thinner and just needs a little more building up. So that's Admiral, Officer, Thunderbird, Grounds, and Enjoy the Ride. They all are very different from each other, like not even close. All right, before we move on to these more, I guess, limited edition ones here at the bottom, I'm going to swatch out all the shimmers on my arm so you can see them all next to each other, and I'll run through the names one more time, and I'm also going to do that with the mattes. All right, so here they are all swatched out. You can hopefully see the differences between them as they're on my arm, and hopefully this will help in some way to know how they might work for you. This top one is Peace, Tiara, Winter's Garden, Troops, Somber, Frosted Morning, Rover, Red Chameleon, and the last swatch here is Purple Sky. Alright guys, so here are all the matte swatches. So pretty. Oh my gosh, they're just so creamy and full-bodied in a way that I don't feel like I did anything extra to make these happen. They just look like this. Let's see if I can do this. This one is Pismo. Next we have San Jose. Next is Iced Mocha, and these two look very similar. I was like, did I do this right? But this is San Jose. It's slightly lighter than Iced Mocha and a little less warm. Next is Pismo. Then we have Moon Landing. Next is Concrete Road. Then we have Cool Brown. Next is Puppy. This is Enjoy the Ride. This is Grounds. Thunderbird. Sorry, it's like tiny bit on Grounds, but this is Thunderbird. This is Officer, which I scratched some of that hard pan away and got a really nice swatch, so that was great. And this is Admiral. Really just such a beautiful array of nice, cool, and neutral shades here for me to do basically like any eye look. Okay, let's get this palette finished up. I'm going to move through these kind of limited edition, or at least what I think. I am not someone who like knows everything about Sydney Grace. I'm definitely still new to like all their sales and discounts and how they do stuff, I guess. So I'm not sure if these were like previous shadows and they came back. I don't know. I don't freaking know. But let's start off with the shadows I got in the warm mystery bag. I overall thought that mystery bag was like such a good deal though. Just saying. This is the shade Picking Peaches, and everything in this warm set had like a peach theme. So I was excited because, as you guys can tell, a lot of what I picked up was more cool tone, so it's kind of fun to get some more warm shades. So this is Picking Peaches, really beautiful. Next we have the shade Blushing Peach, which is a duochrome. This one's really, really beautiful. I was very happy that this was included because it's such a fun finish. It's a duochrome peach with a golden shift. So that is Blushing Peach. This next one's called Southern Flame, and it's kind of this peachy terracotta shade. It's a matte. Just such great quality. I was so excited. This next one, this brown, is called Peach Fuzz. I obviously, it had an accident. It fell down, but overall it stayed pretty intact. Nice and rich brown. I really, you know, from what I've tried, I wouldn't mind to get more of the, like, basically all the shades from Sydney Grace. I think they're so good. So there's Peach Fuzz, something to add some depth to this if you were going to make this as like a 5-pan palette, essentially. And then last, this is probably the most interesting out of all of them. It's called Peach Harvest, and it's like this really beautiful metallic green, like very, I don't know, it's like a cool toned brown green. I loved this, and again, we have one of those like true metallics where it's super pigmented, like kind of thicker, and so that was the warm bundle. I thought that was really great. I was really happy with, first off, the concept. Like, I thought they all went together really nicely, and it's kind of unexpected, but if you picked the warm bundle, like, you got it, you know, and you can do a look with all of these. I don't know, it was just well done. So basically what I'm trying to say is, for a mystery bag, I was very highly impressed, and definitely would be wanting to participate in more mystery bags from them, which isn't always the case. I feel like sometimes, you know, like they're just not that good, or it feels like they're getting rid of stuff. These all felt like normal quality, and I just thought it was well thought out. It didn't feel like a weird add-on or something. All right, moving on to this last more cool row. This is the bundle, the cool add-on that I got. And so the 5 shades in here, this first one is Success. Just a classic, like, cool gray. It's a little bit of a lighter one, but really pretty. And since I was going there to get, it's a little bit one of those harder ones, which sometimes I'll just scratch to like break through some of that, I don't know, hard pan, whatever's happening there. So that's Success, a really nice, like, cooler blue toned light gray. Next, this one I was really excited to get because it's one of those metallics, and it was cool toned, exactly like I was getting. This is Glitz and Glamour. It's so pretty. It's almost like this light, like it has a bit of purple to it, so it almost seems like this really cool toned, shifty, like lavender color, especially because the base has more purple to it. So pretty. Next is a shade called Boss Babe. This is a more mid-toned, cooler gray. I mean, that is like, I don't know, I always think of like prom with these cool tone colors, but that's what that looks like to me. Little prom moment. Next is a shade called Storm Clouds. This one's more of like a satin, so it's shimmery, but it's not quite as thick and not quite as like, yeah, metallic, I think, as like that shade, Glitz and Glamour, but has a sheen for sure. So that's Storm Cloud. And last but not least, this is the shade Tuxedo, which I think is like a soft black. It's not like a super deep black, but it doesn't even look like that in the pan. And I love a black like that for me personally because of my skin tone and just how I like to wear looks. So I was excited to get that color, especially in the Sydney Grace formula. So that was the cool toned, like, 5-pan. How freaking beautiful, right? I was so excited for that. This is very similar to like the Blow and Smoke or Smoke Show, whatever, from ColourPop in a way. Like, it was great. All right, so now you've seen my collection of shadows. I will leave asterisks next to like my absolute favorite shades. I'll try to limit it to like 10 shadows that I think are just the most stunning in my collection from Sydney Grace. So that way, if you are wondering what I would recommend the most, you guys could know if you're shopping or whatever. But I want to take a look at the Tiny Marvels palette, and I heard some people say there are some dupes in here. I think these were supposed to be all new shades, but I thought it would be fun to go through and just see what I do have that's similar. I think it's only going to be a couple of them. I have like 3 off the top of my head that I think I could maybe see what they compare to. Yeah, I'll probably just compare those 3 because everything else is different. And of course, there might be more shadows that might be similar out there, but I can only share with you what I have. All right, so I have 3 shades to look at. The first one I have here, this is Scarab, and it's that similar like red, blue, brown pigment type color. It's so beautiful. So that is Scarab. And then I feel like that's very similar to Red Chameleon. I don't know if it's supposed to be. Maybe it is. But I mean, they are like indistinguishable on my finger. I know that one... Okay, I gotta do this again. For science. Let's try this again without getting confused. Okay. So Scarab on my... It's wet. My hand's wet, so don't mind that. And then this one's Red Chameleon. Yeah, they're exactly the same. So if Scarab was like the only color you did like from this palette, or the one that was the most tempting, and you want to find a single shadow, I do think that Red Chameleon's a good one because it's the same. Next, I feel like Meadowhawk could be similar to one of the limited edition ones. So let's see. Meadowhawk is a beautiful peach, like pink with a golden shift to it. It's so pretty. Honestly, I mean, this palette is beautiful, guys, and it's just as good as all the other quality from Sydney Grace. So if you like a few shades in here, it might be just worth it to get it. But this is Blushing Peach, and I feel like it's kind of similar. They're both that like more, yeah, I think they're the same. So this one is the one from the palette, Meadowhawk, and then this one is Blushing Peach. So beautiful. These are that like metallic formula, you know, like a little bit thicker, opaque, like just nice. So far, if you like the Blushing Peach, since I don't think you can get it individually, you can get it in the palette, which is nice. And then last, this Flutterby shade. It's a really beautiful peachy matte pink. And I feel like, again, it's similar to Picking Peaches from that bundle from the Mystery Warm shades. Looks like there's a little bit of a difference. I did swatch Flutterby when my hand was a little wet, but I would say overall, I mean, they're basically the same as well. So that's something, if you were kind of wanting a couple shades from here, you can get them in this palette, or if you have this palette and were kind of bummed you couldn't get these or didn't get these, you have them already. So yeah. All right, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this swatch video. I'd love to know any of your recommendations of Sydney Grace shadows that I might not have. Like I said, I'm definitely open to getting more and trying even more from the brand, expanding into some warm shades and other tones that I don't have already. And I also hope that my recommendations and my swatches help you if you're looking for something. So of course, leave any of your thoughts down below on Sydney Grace if you can help anyone out, maybe the best times to shop, whatever it is. I think it's so nice for the comment section to be a reference if people are trying to figure out what will work best for them, because that's like always my biggest goal. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed day 2 of Single Shadows Week. We will be moving on to day 3 tomorrow, and I will see you there. Bye, guys.